And the intro is over. Thank you for joining us today on the Wild Wild West podcast. My name is Richi, and yes, your math is correct. We are 2 men down on the podcast, but over to my left is Coach Defense of the Lockdown Defense podcast. You can catch Coach and Coach Kurt on Tuesdays, the staple podcast there on Coach's channel. Obviously, you had your show last night. Sadly, I was absolutely running around like a banshee yesterday, and I missed my opportunity to stab and poke Kurt for some of his takes that he had the week prior. I was quite upset. I'm not going to lie. I was looking forward to it, and I just couldn't do it. But there's always next week, and I will have hopefully more things piled up in my arsenal to heave and throw live on air.
The little devilish toil there was funny. Yeah, that's hilarious.
But please tell Kurt I say hi.
I will do that. Good times had when Richie's in the chat. So yeah, we look forward to that banter back and forth, if nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I poke fun at him, he's a great dude. I really do like him.
Yeah. So he said he shared the same sentiment. You know, he definitely wonders when you're not there.
Yeah. So
look, Avatar knows. Avatar knows. Yes, indeed. He knows the day. He knows the vibes.
Yeah, 100%. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will be having the rest of the crew join us. Both are actually experiencing some technical challenges. And here we go.
I'm logged in on mine.
I can tell. Yeah.
But not yours.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. So we got, we're now 3 for 4, and Alex is figuring out how to keep a computer powered on.
Those mice are going to get very, very tired in that. What do you call those things?
The hamster wheel.
The hamster wheel. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I knew what I wanted to say. I'm old, but I don't have that Rocky Balboa stuff yet. But I'm getting there.
He doesn't have a turbine that's run by hamster power, I'm sure, but it is Kansas City. You never know.
Kansas City, there he goes. I know it's Here I Come, but I just, I didn't want to say that.
Yeah. So, gentlemen and ladies, Salty Pirate himself, the real deal. You can catch him live on Sundays on screen at most Raiders games. Captain Jack Rackham, staple shows throughout the.
All right, you bastards. Hey, if you don't see me this Sunday, I mean, honestly, I'm not saying this egotistically, because I do have front row tickets, corner end zone, where the Raiders come out of the tunnel. I'm going to be with Hollywood. So if you're with Hollywood, it's guaranteed you're going to get on TV. So if they cut me out, it's because obviously that gentleman looks a lot better than me, and they had me at the very edge of the screen, and they said, "Hey, get rid of that dude that's next to him." And I'm literally going to be next to him, so it's going to be very hard for them to cut me out of the screen, but they might.
So we're going to start off the show, guys, with a recap of Week 10, which was nothing shy of an interesting week, to say the least, for the division. Obviously, Alex and his team had their bye. They are, however, coming up to a rather difficult game coming up this upcoming week for Week 11. And Coach, your team went up against a pretty solid team in the Lions, which I know you and I both have tremendous respect for Coach Campbell there. So, I mean, as much as I know you guys didn't come out on top in that game, the same time, you at least lost to a formidable coach that has his team, playing at a really high level this year.
Well, yeah, I mean, in all respect and congratulations to them, but there's some systemic problems. It's why we lost the game ultimately, and how we lose most games that are close. But we'll get into all that, before we get through the intro. We'll get into all that.
Yeah. So, lots to get into, lots to go into today. Breaking down a few of my thoughts on the Broncos game as well. Some of them you're going to like, some of them you're not going to like, and that's fine. Welcome to life. So we're going to go ahead and move on to go right into your team, Coach. Just the Lions. I have some ties to them. A few diehard Lions fans, and I also happen to just really like Coach Campbell as a coach. So I loosely follow.
Love that guy. Love that guy, man.
He is like, when they say, hey, what is a football coach supposed to look and sound like? His picture is somewhere within like the top 3. You know what I mean? Like, just how he presents himself and how he motivates his team is exactly what you're looking for in a coach. So
yeah, we have a popular term on Sports Talk that is called MOM, mover of men. You know, you can surround yourself with all the analytical people, all the X's and O's guys that's on your staff, but at the top, who's the leader of the ship per se, definitely needs to be a mover of men if you want to get anywhere in life. And I think you can see that in certain cases. The teams that overachieve don't necessarily have the talent. They're not blowing people's doors off as far as their offense or defense, but they just win both ball games. And that's indicative of how mover of men do. I mean, and I hearken to Mike Tomlin being a complete utter mover of men, because again, we still question and check our head of how they win ball games, but they just do. And he's never had a losing season, and he's right on the par again to have another winning season, no matter what they do in the playoffs. But then they're just mover of men, and they just get things done, and people believe and they buy in, and they go with the game plan, and they don't deviate. And that's what you need.
I agree. There's certain coaches that are just those guys. You know what I mean? Like they're that mold, and those are two of the coaches that are 100% in that mold.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing though, he better cash in now, because he's going to lose both his coordinators. The people are going to be hot on Glenn and Johnson's tail come into the season. I'm telling you, for a head coaching job. So. Yeah, enjoy while it lasts, because unless you got somebody that's the heir apparent in the tuck that's just as good as them, you're gonna lose those guys. I promise you that, because I promise you Ben Johnson's gonna be somewhere. I'm hoping it's LA, but that's a whole other conversation for another day. but yeah, I'm hoping that that he gets a job, and because it's much deserved. I mean, Ben Johnson is just doing massive work with that offense. For sure.
And where's Ben Johnson from? A couple years back, if I got the same guy correct.
It's a pretty generic name.
Yeah, it is. I mean, a lot of Ben Johnson.
A lot of BJs out there.
Well, don't even that's a layup, man. Here's the top of the tennis thing right here, and not even, man.
That was a T-ball. That wasn't a layup. He just put that on the tee. That was a T-ball.
I tell you what. Hey, Alex, I love you, brother. I love you. I'm not. That's so easy. Even I'm not going to take it. Okay. Wow. The easy button is right here for that one.
Yeah.
But what I was thinking of, since we are talking about Ben Johnson, I believe he comes from the University of Florida somewhere back a couple years ago. I can look it up, but I think he's from, no,
he's a Boston College alum. He's a grad assistant there, coach there. He was a Dolphins coach. That's how he knows Campbell. He was a Dolphins assistant for years. Then he became a Lions quality control coach, and now he's the offensive coordinator.
Okay,
so, that's his lineage.
Okay, I've been wrong. I once thought I was wrong, but I was mistaken.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, now I'll take that T-ball shot. Screw it. It's a lot of BJs going off around here as well. Okay, wow. And Ben's one of them.
Oh, Lord.
There you go. I set you up.
Nicholas D. That's the crazy part. Yeah. But I think that he has to make do now, because again his coaching staff is going to be different, and he'll be dealing with what the Eagles went through this past season, how both coordinators had to be on the way out the door because they got head coaching gigs. So yeah, I think he needs to maximize what he can do with that team now, because again it's going to be different next year. But like I said, kudos to them. Get into the game real quick. I mean, if we're going to quote Shakespeare, thou dost sucketh when it comes to the Chargers at this moment.
I love the reference and the twist. thinks you protect too much as well.
Yes, and it's particularly on the defense is where we suck it. So, and I give you this quick example. I'm sure people I've referenced this before, and I'll say it again that coaching married with personnel matters, and I think that's the biggest issue and biggest most glaring problem in LA right now for the Chargers is that, and I'll use the example of the Browns, and I talked about looking at the Browns for the last 3 years. The personnel has been excellent.
Yep.
Right. They drafted well. They brought in key free agents to, backfill certain areas that they were missing. They were still trying to develop per se. Cool Kev, what's up? And they were still getting gashed. They were still giving up, plenty of yards through multitude of ways. They couldn't stop the run. It just was a dumpster fire. And then all of a sudden, you took a bold move and switched coordinators, and look what happened. Now they're top 5 defense overnight.
And they got Myles Garrett. So
but they had
that helped.
I know.
My point is they had Myles Garrett. They've had all the personnel, but it somehow or some way has not worked. So the issue is you have to marry up a good coordinator with a good personnel group, and that's the issue we have with the Chargers at this moment. They do not have a good coaching staff on the defensive side that's marrying up with the personnel. We have one of the highest payrolls in all of football on the defensive side of the ball, and we're one of the last in the league on the last 3 years.
And remember, you got rid of $30 million of that in one fell swoop too.
And again, and this is going back to the whole issue. People use other people as scapegoats. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and act like J.C. Jackson is a game changer in any regard, because he's having his problems in New England now too with Bill. Back with Bill, so he
was though when you signed him. So I mean,
he was good. I mean, again, he was good. You capitalize on your production, and that's what everybody does, right? You capitalize on your production. He was playing well. Mr. INT, that's his tag on Twitter and all that good stuff. He was leading the league in interceptions over this course of his 4-year career in New England, right? So yeah, you pay a guy like that because you feel like he's a game changer. But it could be one of those things where you get his money and he starts to get relaxed. He's no longer hungry. He got his big payday. Most of his money's guaranteed. Hey, I'm just going to rest on my laurels, right? But again, I think that him being who he was, and coupled with the idea of what Brandon Staley wasn't doing right in the organization, was a recipe for disaster. And his reason why he didn't work out. But yet again, and not just him. You got brought in Khalil Mack. You signed Joey Bosa to a rich bag. You signed Derwin James on a long-term deal. You drafted Asante Samuel. You brought in Eric Kendricks. I mean, the list goes on. You have all these guys that have had success elsewhere or success with us in their own personal right, and you can't make it work. You can't marry it up. And I'm just loving how Dan Orlovsky and a few other people, Ryan Clark and other people are dicing up how bad and wide open that people are against us in any facet. Like, we're not talking about just the Lions. We're talking about every team we faced, and from the Dolphins on down, they've just gotten busted us for big plays. And that's been the Achilles heel. I mean, we literally tied at this moment. We're tied record and points wise on both sides of the ball. Like, we've given up the most points and we scored the most points over the course of Herbert's career. That's not a recipe for winning ball games, and hence why the whole team as a whole under Staley's tutelage on the Herbert's quarterbacking is to 500. Because again, you only can overcome so much. You can't, no quarterback in the league is going to be He-Man or Superman every week. You have to play supportive football at some point. You got to bet. You
killed it that game though.
Yeah, and you don't want Herbert to turn into like Mike Trout, where he's like doing historical stuff but losing.
Nobody cares. Guess what?
Like, it's like Herbert threw for 400 yards as the Chargers lost 27-24, or something.
Yeah. Like that. Right, that's why I shake my head at people on social media saying that, Herbert is this, Herbert is that. He's clearly not the problem. If you know football like you should know football, if you watch it, even as a casual fan, he's not the issue. Right. See, my point is that is Herbert overrated? Come on now.
Get the doll out. We'll show.
Yeah. He's like, come on. One thing that's the problem is Keenan Allen and Justin Herbert. Those two people are not the problem. You can point fingers at other things. The line not living up to standard.
It's the coach, man. It's very obvious.
It's clear.
The coach, like,
Hey,
I mean,
just
I think
like
we
the
can
one guy
all
said,
agree it's the coach,
it's the economy, stupid. It's the coach, stupid. And by the way, Asylum's going to pull out that doll for you, Coach. That so you could show, what we show where the bad man did those things. Just say it needed to be said. I was just setting them up for him. There you go. Thank you there. Show where the bad man did things to you.
Was the bad man Brandon Staley? Is that what we're referencing? Yeah, I don't know, man.
He is.
I've known the issue. I mean, again, me being, a coach, a defensive guy, I've seen the issue for a long time. I've just been quiet because, again, you hoping that, because you can't make the decision yourself. You know exactly what the problem is, but you just can't fix it yourself. I can't make a phone call, pick the phone, and say, "Hey, Dean, your head coach is not it. You need to make a move," and he does it. It doesn't work.
Start writing letters, man.
That'll work. Yeah, he'll read those in Tripoli, right? Yeah, he'll read those. Like put in the suggestion box.
Get the petition up because that works. That works. It worked for us, but folks, it wasn't because of the petition. It was because you had Hall of Famers in the owners here that got rid of our bad man with the doll. The petition didn't work.
Bad man with the doll.
That's right. Okay.
LT. Maybe I'll call LT and Antonio Gates and get them on board. Then maybe we can get something to happen.
There you go. If you get the right people, and by the way, LT played for the Giants. You're talking about LaDainian Tomlinson. There's only one LT, coach. I got a crack on you on that one. I'm sorry. There's only one LT, and he played for the Giants. Who's 56.
One now, severe drug issue.
LaDainian Tomlinson was a fantastic Hall of Famer for the Garglers. Okay, they're two different things. Anyway, get Tomlinson on the phone, get Fouts on the phone because God knows Fouts will talk somebody's ear off. Okay, get Kellen Winslow on the phone.
Captain, you're missing it. All you need to do is make one phone call to one household.
Oh, I want to hear that.
You get Philip Rivers and all 19 kids to go over to
and
call it a day.
That's the whole staff.
You know what? I should have thought it said there was something good coming. Bing, 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 bing. Winner on that one, man.
Yeah. So get the Rivers household on board. I need to go. I need to go to North Carolina. Yeah. So after the show tonight, after the Lightning Fast Fantasy Podcast, shameless plug. Well, I'm taking the trip to Carolina to talk to Philip. We're gonna get this thing working. We're gonna get it done.
Right down the road from you, man.
The dude's got enough kids.
Yeah.
It's overnight. I'll be there by the morning. So I'm good.
That's right.
Yeah. And, Coach, just on that note, with regards to the coach problem, which at this point here, I mean the answer is yes. But the thought process on the stubbornness of the Spanos family and wanting to do things a certain way. And what I mean by that is you know exactly where I'm going with this as soon as I say like 2 seconds. You have the Steelers, you have the Ravens, you have some of the Giants that kind of all fit a relatively similar mold. Typically speaking, the ownership is of a certain mindset, which is you do not make coaching changes during the year, which I disagree with because I think we've seen sparks come back into teams when the ownership is showing that they recognize that there is accountability to be had, and they're showing that the coach needs to be held accountable just like they do. And so I think it's not the right move. But besides the point, do you think this is an actual Spanos issue as opposed to just a coaching issue in the fact that they seem to be unwilling to make the tough decisions at the right moment to potentially put a spark back into the team? Frankly, we've seen Captain's Raiders jumpstart things back for them with the right change at the coach, and the players play to the level that I believe all Raiders fans expected their team to play at the beginning of the year. So why won't your ownership do the same thing and say, Kellen Moore was on a fast track to becoming a head coach. You'd be an idiot to not leverage that potential there and move on from a dude that's not working and see what Kellen Moore can do, and give him some on the job training to see if he can actually, and see if he can do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's two ways you can play this particular scenario. When generally speaking, I'm gonna start by saying this. Generally speaking, if you feel like you have another guy or a potential guy in the room or in the building already, like don't do what the coach did and go out and get Jeff Saturday. Don't do that.
Right.
Go out and if you know a guy that's ready to go and he's on the staff and you feel like he can elevate the team, kind of like what Basaccia did and kind of what Pierce is doing now to that point. If you know that if absolutely positively certain that you can give that guy a trial run and he can maybe give results, then yeah, it makes sense to do it. But when you talk about the Spanos family, they are more of the traditionalists, and I might argue that they are more so less, I don't want to call it meddling, but they're less involved, with the day-to-day. Like, they pretty much let the GM and people like that run the business, and they just kind of make decisions when they have to, kind of deal. So I think that the issue is that they've never done that before. In most cases, they wait to the end of the season, just to not rock the boat and kind of keep the vain hopes of it getting better turned around. And if it does not work, then they make a call at the end of the season, which I think was more likely be the outcome in this particular situation. But again, you keep doing the same thing over and over again, it doesn't work. I mean, sometimes you just got to make a bold move, right? So, I mean, if you think if you brought Kellen Moore on maybe as a, kind of a side audition to the idea that he may be head coach material, then yeah, why not? But again, it just really depends on what their opinion on Kellen Moore is. Do they think that he's ready? Do they think he's not? It may be a advanced analytical thing to say that he is, he's a good OC, but we're not sure that he will move men, the way Brandon Staley isn't. And let's be honest. The issue isn't offense. We saw that on Sunday. The issue isn't offense, it's the defense. So you need somebody that's going to change that side of the ball, because let's be honest, by being that Brandon Staley is the play caller, let's say you let him go. You keep Derek Ansley and knowing that's his guy and he has the same similar philosophy. Do you think anything's going to get better? That's the biggest, most glaring difference. Like, Kyle Kellen Moore would just keep the offense flowing, but the defense still probably be bad.
Yeah, but I think you're going to have to hire Kellen Moore, or he's going to be gone. So I think you have to almost flip it and find a up and coming defensive mind, and let them prosper into the next crop of head coach. But I think if they don't hire Kellen Moore, he's going to be gone. I mean, with how successful they've looked, he's going to go somewhere. The move now is always to go for the young offensive guru guy. So he's got to get a job. I mean, look, Cliff Kingsbury got a job.
I don't think we're why I drop Ben Johnson's name, because I think if you feel like Kellen Moore is quote unquote tied to Staley in some kind of way, they have some type of working or personal relationship. You don't want to necessarily rock the boat by leaving Kellen Moore in place and firing Staley. Go out and get Ben Johnson. I think Ben Johnson
No. You already got him on staff. The offense already works well with him. You're going to get rid of Staley anyway, or you should at this point. Like I was bitching about with the Raiders before, said you're going to get rid of McFired. Eventually do it this season and start the process early. You're going to get rid of Staley if you're smart enough, right? You got Kellen Moore on staff. Just kick him upstairs as the interim head coach. I know it's going to be a big thing for him, but don't let him walk out the door if you're the Chargers. And notice I said Chargers out of respect, coach, because he's on staff. Yeah. He's on staff. Don't let him go.
I'm not opposed to it. I just, it's the whole dynamic. That gets into the argument about Eric Bieniemy going in with the Commanders, because I'm pretty sure that the Commanders are going to fire Ron Rivera at the end of the season. So does that is Eric Bieniemy a casualty of Rivera's staff being fired, or do they keep him because he technically came in before the new ownership group was even there? So it's the political game that you're playing when it comes down to the idea of who you like, who you feel like is a better fit, who we think that can be ultimately galvanize this whole problem of us being underachievers. So that's where it really lies. And I'm going to get into this tomorrow morning on my 30-minute lockdown show about the coaching decisions, because I'm seeing a lot of people buzz about Bill Belichick, being the heir apparent to the organization, which I think is a complete and utter mistake in its own right. But
I think I've heard that Belichick is going to go down to Washington to be the coach and GM.
It's rumored to be either or. It's really either or at this point.
Or going to LA.
Right. That's my point. It's the either or. So it's the Washington or LA. But they're the two teams that people are talking about that he could just completely and solely flip and leave New England and go there. So again, I don't think it's a good idea. I think the game has passed Bill Belichick up by. He does.
Look at all the draft picks he's done.
That's my point.
He's had that chance. Like, they are in the dumpster, and it's not just because of Mac Jones. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
The best pass rusher is a guy from Grand Valley State. Like, they lucked out on that.
Right. He's going to want control, and that's something you don't want to give up to him at any point.
I'll take that cornerback that they just got rid of. I mean, he's a natural Raider. Actually, I should say he's a natural Chief because he had gun charges.
Did you claim him off waivers?
Yeah, we claimed him off with
waivers.
Because
hold on, Cap. Did you just try to?
I had to. It was there. It was there.
Didn't your first round corner literally get kicked off the team for flashing
but
on Instagram?
But we got rid of them. I was going to say there were guys that are playing for the Kansas City Chiefs that had them in their trunk that still stayed on the team up until.
We're just throwing shots now. Let's get back on schedule.
Anyway, but yeah, we'll take him.
Coach,
I think that is hire a guy that is not only, a good tactician, a good interview, but a person that can really move the needle when it comes to players.
Yeah.
It comes down to a respect thing. And I don't think Belichick is the answer. I'm even pausing on the idea, of the. Right. Oh, right.
AR, not Uzi. Sorry.
Yeah.
Get it right.
But I mean, again, I'm with the idea of young, innovative, and hiring a rock star defensive coordinator. That's the move, and that's my end game with the Chargers should do. So,
just to kind of put a fine point on this, and kind of one quick comment, Coach, and we'll move on so we kind of keep the show rolling. But my general thought for you guys is fire Staley now. Move Kellen Moore up proactively now, like today. Look for a defensive guy that is quasi-retired or somewhere that's not in the league currently. Bring him in as a defensive consultant.
Get Rex Ryan, man.
Yeah, you joke, but that he would actually be a fairly good.
He literally goes on a rampage every morning about how he really wanted to be the Broncos DC and he didn't get the job. So,
right.
Now he wants to get back in it.
Yeah. So, I'm saying.
Look at the Rams, right? Rams, when they got McVay, they gave him Wade Phillips. And they're like, you do your thing on offense.
Right.
Here's this dude that definitely knows what he's doing. And I mean, they kind of turned it into crap later, but it looked pretty good at the start of everything.
So, at the moment, good. Yeah.
Yes. So, but my point there is you bring in an older veteran guy that is savvy and kind of knows what he's doing on the defensive side of the ball to pull in what are clearly talented defensive players and can likely right that ship in very short order because you have talent. They just need to be shown the way. Okay. I'm sorry. It's just a fact. Okay. Look, you're a divisional rival, but you have to be realistic when you're assessing your divisional rivals. You do not have a crap roster. It's a good roster that is poorly coached. And so now bring in a coach that can help an offense, like a defensive guy that gets elevated maybe to defensive coordinator that's already on the staff. Then you bring in kind of a consultant to kind of work with that younger guy, probably in lockstep. That's a good move. And then next year, you make decisions on whether or not that young guy was proven enough and should be given the shot, or do what you said and say, hey, young dude, love to have you stick around as an assistant defensive coordinator. However, we're bringing in Rex Ryan, Wade Phillips,
Quinn,
someone that is a proven defensive mind that can come in and kill it.
Well, I think the Dan Quinn thing is kind of dead because I think that he's going to be the Dallas head coach. And if he's not the head coach of Dallas, he's going to be head coach of somebody. He's not taking another DC.
Well,
arguably Dan Quinn would just be swapping Brandon Staley for Brandon Staley.
Yeah,
Well, I'm just saying, but if you were talking to come in, then tell Dan Quinn and Kellen Moore, okay, guys, fight for it. Who should be the head coach and who should kick back down?
Drop a knife in between them.
Yeah, fight to the death. Yeah. Whoever gets the
like
shit.
The Dark Knight, I only got room. We only got one spot.
Right.
Yeah, that's it. And tryouts are taken, and there's only one spot left.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
Tryouts.
The one thing about Fight Club is we don't talk about Fight Club.
Another one too.
Yeah. There you go.
There you go.
There it is. Yeah, Dan Quinn is. I don't know about that. I think the owners don't believe that based upon what he's doing in Dallas, but that's a whole other conversation.
Coach, that's my thought. That's my thought.
LA, man.
I think that I would say that if they did bring in a veteran guy, older guy, I would let him, like you said, he would groom the next guys. Like, just get him, sell a bunch of young guys on his staff and groom them for a couple of years. And then whoever shines the brightest, that's who your next defense coordinator is.
Bring him up. Yeah.
Right. So, but I do believe holistically, just to wrap this up, I do believe holistically that the next head coach should be offensive minded.
I agree.
I
agree. So I'm going to quickly jump into the Broncos and our win over the Buffalo Bills.
What a wild game!
That was different. We'll just put it that way. That was different. And so there's a
Josh
few quick.
Allen's trash, dude.
For me,
Josh Allen sucks.
Oh, he did not have a good game. But
it's interesting. Like Coach was talking about, pairing the coordinator with the player. It's like I feel like once Dayball got out, he's kind of just not looking the same.
I've been saying that he has regressed.
But
Dayball left.
Not taking anything away from the Broncos. I was just wanted to say that.
Well, no, my dad texted me
respectfully.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
respectfully.
So my dad texted me after the game and said, your Broncos barely won. Basically the Bills handed it to them, and I said, well, I don't disagree. And I said, but at the same time, the Bills need to fire their offensive coordinator. And then I said that to my dad like the day before, like the night of. I said that, and then the next morning he gets fired.
It's your fault, Rich.
Yeah, it was all me, of course, naturally. But watching that game, it looked like the offensive coordinator did not understand the personnel that he had on the team. Like it was like watching Staley with the Chargers. He paired all of the wrong plays with all the wrong players, and it turned out looking like crap. And he had a running back that was, and so anyways, it was a really, really interesting game from that perspective. Just watching an offensive coordinator kind of call the wrong plays with the wrong personnel at the wrong times. Like everything was off. There was.
It's wild though. That like when you go look at their stats, they're pretty high up there in terms of like offensive efficiency and everything. So it's like I feel like he was kind of
so is Denver, but our offense barely scored points.
True.
Like so, getting into what my negatives are in the game is how many 4 and 3 turnover games do you think you're going to get in a season as a team?
Shouldn't be many.
Okay, like
maybe one. Lucky.
Okay, so Broncos have had 2 in a row.
On a bad weather game at that.
Yeah, right. Broncos have had 2 in a row, and it hasn't been bad weather.
Yeah.
Okay, so we had Mahomes, who had a multi-turnover game that was 3+. Alex, thanks for that. And then
you're welcome.
And then we had well, hey, if you're gonna talk crap, I'm gonna throw it right back at you. And then we had this game, which was more of the same with Josh Allen, who had a 4 turnover game. Now the turnover margin though was only 3 because the Broncos also coughed it up once as well. So it was a turnover differential of 3 in the Broncos' favor. But at the end of the day, off of the first 3 turnovers, we only scored 6 points.
Gotta get points off turnovers.
And you can't do that. Like you just can't. Like, same thing with the Chiefs. Like, Alex, I think credit to your defense where it's due is the Broncos, even against the Chiefs, with all of those turnovers, should have had far more points on the board, and they didn't because, again, to the Chiefs' defensive credit, stop them.
You would think that people from Colorado would know how to get pot.
Shameless plug there. There you go, Cap.
There you go.
It was there, man. I just connected the dots. There you go.
But that was ultimately and is actually my problem. And Captain, on your on the NFL Nation Live, which you came from just before this show, you can catch them typically on Thursdays, 6:30 Eastern Standard. Great show.
Not 6 o'clock Eastern Standard. Usually on Thursdays. I'm sorry, sir. I appreciate the plug. I want to make sure that they get the full show. 6 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific. Usually on Thursdays, but we just came off a show this week, and then next week it'll be another Wednesday show. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So as I kind of hinted at that show and a little bit of projection for the second half of the show here against the Vikings, the Vikings are not prone to turn the ball over. They just don't, typically speaking. They are a pretty darn disciplined football team. And so any of us that are playing the Vikings, I say generally speaking, so any of us that are then playing the Vikings are going to have to beat them outright by stopping them and not necessarily relying on turnovers, etc. And so what that ultimately means is that defense that is stalled out both in the KC game, and if you're going to be truthful, also against the Bills, which is the game we're talking about, the Broncos are going to have to do much better on that front. And that's ultimately what my biggest concern came from that Buffalo Bills game, which is 4 turnovers should have resulted in 21 points, somewhere in that range. And
even if you give yourself 13, let's just say that you
Sure. And like, how many did they get in plus territory too? I mean, I'm sure that if you get 3 turnovers, likely as you're getting one in the other in your red zone. If you're close.
And on top of that, Alex, to kind of drive the same point home for me, as fantasy guys, which you can catch directly after the show, the Lightning Fast Fantasy Podcast with Coach Defense and the real Alex Gibbons.
Smug.
Yeah, Mr. Smug himself. Knowing stats, because that's what is going to drive a lot of fantasy football decisions, is to kind of see where those stats lie. Marvin Mims Jr. was named AFC Special Teams Player of the Week with yet another absolutely incredible special teams performance in the game against the Bills, who had us on multiple occasions on the Bills side of the field after the kickoffs and punt returns.
Yeah, but he ain't doing anything else in fantasy.
No, he did not.
You got negative points, actually.
No. Alex, you want to know the funny part about that? If, you can go and find the clip on YouTube and Facebook. He was signing stuff after the show for fans that were in the stadium, Broncos fans. And one of the fans said, "Dude, why don't you have any catches?" And he goes, "Because Russell Wilson doesn't throw me the ball."
That's true.
Oh no, like it was like
he only throws it to Cortland Sutton.
Yeah, exactly. So, but anyways, the point being, Alex, and this is Captain and Coach, this goes exactly into what my point was. So in addition to getting turnovers that were on Buffalo's side of the field, so again, in plus territory, as in the right half of the field to ultimately score points, we also had a punt and kick returner who was getting us on the Buffalo side of the field after returning the ball.
Yeah.
So you're all roads should point you to basically having a blowout. And I mean, just blow the doors off your opponent. And ultimately, we won, but it wasn't just, it wasn't a blowout. It was like a barely win. Last minute field goal. Like, you shouldn't be at that point when you're at that point. Like, you just shouldn't. And that is ultimately what my problem is. To dovetail this and put a fine point on everything here, I have to give absolute credit where credit's due. Vance Joseph and Sean Payton have collaborated and made absolutely stellar player personnel decisions to remove players from certain positions on the defensive side of the ball. And this is exactly what Coach was referring to when he was talking about the right coach with the right players and the right scheme. They have made the adjustments, put in McMillan, put in Morneau, and paired them alongside PS2, who is a stellar talent in his own right, one of the best cornerbacks in the league, if not the best cornerback in the league, depending on metrics and what you're looking at. Just a great personnel move. And in addition to that, we're seeing linebackers like Singleton, Jewell, and Sanders get rotated in the right moments to help growth and actually get that position group looking a lot better as well. Overall, generally speaking, credit to Vance Joseph, who really started off the season not looking great and was given the flexibility and the roster decisions in order to get guys that were not doing well off.
Y'all ready to hang Van Joseph out to dry at the beginning of the season. now
I was one of those guys, because if you don't make the changes that we made, in my opinion, that's a coaching problem, right? Like, if you're not doing well, then move other guys into those spots that are not doing well and see if you have better guys on your roster. And again, as I said earlier, to their credit, both Peyton and Joseph, to their credit, they moved different guys into those roles. And ultimately, our defense has had almost 4 weeks of not only the last 2 weeks really have been absolutely excellent play. And the week before, you actually saw that first step and that first improvement on the defensive side of the ball. So credit where credit's due.
How much of that you think is due to, obviously, like going from Evero, right, was a Fangio guy. Then you bring in Joseph, who's a little bit different scheme wise, you know? Yep. So how much of that do you think was just the normal brunt of, like, kind of basically totally flipping the script on how you played defense and approached it? I mean, if for returning players, you know, and it's just kind of the meshing point. Because, I mean, I always thought from watching the Broncos at the start of the year, at least on the offensive side, you're like, well, you could just tell, you know, they probably got really bad habits on stuff from Hackett and that whole debacle, that Peyton's come in and is going to want to wipe the total slate. So you know it's going to take time. And I imagine the same was on the defense. And I'm just curious if that's kind of your thought with it, or if it was more just personnel change in general, or what?
Both. So I still have some issues with some of the current personnel on the defensive side, and quite a few issues with the personnel on the offensive side still. So since I was just talking about the defense, I'll talk about that first. I still think that we have certain guys that are looking really good in certain situations. So, for example, Justin Simmons in certain situations is looking really good, like elite, right? But then on the flip side, you have him in other situations where he's awful, like literally awful. Like,
I'd say the only thing he's elite about is getting interceptions.
You're right. So it's like, I have all of these interceptions, and it's like,
if you do it right.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 30, like 31 or something.
Right. That's the problem. You have all these interceptions, but then it's like, well, how many big runs did you give up because you didn't tackle properly? How many big plays were thrown over the top where you were supposed to be the safety that circled back and behind, but you weren't quick enough to be there? Like, the problem is that it's like a hot and cold, and it's extremes on hot and cold with him, I find. And the really good is at the top of the NFL. The really bad is literally right near the bottom of the NFL. And so a lot of Denver Broncos fans want to only hone in on the really, really good, which, fine, fair enough. He needs to get credit for those things. But you have to factor in the really, really bad too. And you have to then average that out. Am I saying that I think he's absolutely awful? No. But what kind of player are you wanting from that position? And more importantly, is it worth $15 million a year? However, he is playing much better in a Vance Joseph system now, generally speaking, than he did in the Fangio system, because in the Fangio system, you're meant to read and then run. So if a guy is slower, which Justin Simmons is not the fastest safety on the field, having to read and run can often put you behind the 8 ball because you can't make up that speed difference between a fast wide receiver and yourself. So Justin Simmons is actually being put in better positions because of the Vance Joseph defensive scheme. However, I still think that if Caden Stearns can stop getting injured, please, just please, that he would slowly overtake snaps and really start to get, push for that starting role, and we start to see some interesting rotations in the Broncos safety room. On the offensive side of the ball, though, I completely agree with you, Alex, which is you got to learn how to win. And on top of that, your offensive scheme with Sean Payton is so different than what the Broncos have had in the past, that the concept of a fullback and a blocking tight end on the field is we only saw like we almost the last time we actually saw that used, but it was not even the same blocking scheme, though. It was a different blocking scheme, was under Rick Scangarello, where you had blocking tight ends and a fullback, and that was with Janovich and in our tight end room at the time. And then we did see a little bit of that with Bill Musgrave, who was here, who has a 12 and 13 personnel grouping, although typically 12 personnel grouping, which is your 2 tight ends at flank. And that's when we had Saubert on the team, and he was often on the right. And then that's my guy.
Saubert. Where's he at? Miami?
Saubert.
Yeah. But and that was a Bill Musgrave style offense, and that's the way he runs the ball, which is a modified zone blocking style system where you end up using the tight ends as kind of almost extensions of your tackles on the run plays. And then you run some seam routes in the passing game every once in a while, where you break one of them down in the seam and on the outside as a pass catcher. But we haven't really seen the style of a Peyton here. And so our linemen, even the new ones, took a long time to get up to speed. And frankly, a lot of them are showing that they didn't really fit the scheme. And I blame that on my front office for the Denver Broncos, who I am still of the opinion that they need to all be fired.
Yeah.
So, there's that too. So, like I said, there was really good and bad that came from this game. And I'm actually really looking forward to really digging into the Vikings game coming up, because I think we can tie the Bills game and the Vikings game together pretty neatly and start looking at some predictions. So if anyone has any questions as to why I feel that way, or would like to tell me why I'm wrong, please comment down below. Really interested to hear what you have to say. And I really appreciate those that actually want to justify why they disagree with me, because I think it's really, really interesting to kind of have that type of nuanced volley discussion about football. Captain, over to you, because Alex, congratulations, you didn't lose. So that's great.
Yeah.
And Captain, over to you, and we'll talk about the Raiders there.
Yeah. Well, first off, like I said, make sure that you leave your comments if you're watching live, or if you're watching this on Memorex, because again, it gets the algorithm up for all the folks that are here. So if you're watching on YouTube, whichever channel, on either MHRT Network or the Lockdown Defense, or my channel, or Alex Gibbons's YouTube. Oh, I'm sorry, that's right.
My channel.
That was easy. That's why I just did it right into that. But again, appreciate the comments, and live or also after the show. Getting back to the Raiders game, and again, I wanted to see if the Raiders were going to play a game that was not just an emotional, uplifting first game out of the box for an interim head coach, and it was as tight I can say a lot with it. I could use this analogy all day long as far as tight. It was a very tight game. I'll just
tight
leave it
butthole.
at
Toit.
tight. Tight. It was tight.
Toit like a Toiger.
Yeah, it was tight. Game in the first half where, field goals upon field goals again. Raiders go up 3. Then the Jets come back with 3 field goals, which is a testament to the Raiders' red zone defense, which has been clicking since the Detroit game, Detroit, where they have been making sure that if you're going to be going down into the area where you expect to get a touchdown when we're holding them to field goals, that's a good thing. So again, the Raiders' red zone defense is probably so much better than people would have imagined. 9-3, then 9-6, with the Raiders having a kick at the end of the first half. Then it gets interesting. And I said before, and I'm not sure if I put this on record or not, but basically, when you have a defensive struggling game like that, whoever gets the touchdown usually is the team that wins. And sure enough, the Raiders got that touchdown eventually with a, lo and behold, a pass to the tight end. Mayer, the 2 rookies getting it together, O'Connell to Mayer in like a jump ball in the end zone. And what really upset me about that is it was at the very start of the fourth quarter, and they had just flipped the field. So if they would have done it at the end of the third quarter, it would have been right in front of me. No, I wasn't that lucky, So the guy that was sitting next to me gets the Instagram video of the touchdown happening when it should have been right in front of us. But hey, doesn't matter. It was the touchdown that counted, okay? And again, the Raiders defense comes and plays. Again, they win the game because the Raiders offense was that much better than the Jets offense, because the Jets defense by the end of the game was just tarred. I mean, just Southern tarred. Like they were so tarred you couldn't even get the full word out. I'm tar. You don't even get the D out, which is on their D, right? Again, a good pun. But they couldn't handle it. The fact that Jacobs gets over his 100-yard mark for the first time this year. The Raiders actually running some sweeps to the outside, some jet sweeps. You sure you want 2 rookies doing it in front of you, Captain? Well, I can give them pointers. I'm just saying,
There we go.
If we're gonna go there, right, Asylum, we're gonna go. Okay, what you should do there to get your technique right. Anyway, but the one touchdown wins, and it was on us. And then, but 2 more things, right? Thank God for Robert, aka Mickey Spillane, who was the defensive player of the week for the AFC with his 3rd interception. What should have been the no shit, this game is over interception, but the Raiders still gave the Jets an opportunity at the very end to try to win the game.
Your defensive player should have been Tyler Conklin. He deflected that pass at the end.
Well, but see that was the other thing, right? Is that once more into the breach, my friends. We're going to be quoting, because you were saying sucketh. I'm going to throw some real Shakespeare out to you as well. Once more into the breach, my friends, because it came down to the very last play of the game. You have Wilson roll out, who's probably about this close to being decapitated by Crosby and a couple of the other folks on the crew, right? Gets the ball off into the end zone, and somebody just swatting it back at the very end over Wilson, because Wilson almost had that catch. And I didn't see what the hands were that popped it out of there. Yeah, definitely smug for smug.
I had that with Sarah in mind.
Yeah. And by the way, Mike Sarah is from Missouri, just like you, big guy.
I know, he's a St. Louis guy.
Yeah,
that explains his hatred.
Right. That he's a Missouri just like you. So there you go. But a win is a win is a win. And it's such that now you got to see that the Raiders could beat 2 generally bad teams. But now comes the stretch where you have the Dolphins, Kansas City comes to town, a bye week, and then you have the Vikings the week after. This is a rough stretch. So we can see what we got going on. And then you got the Garglers on a short Thursday night after the Vikings. So these next 4, okay, will tell tale of where this team can be. And again, until you get some more wins in your craw, and again, the Raiders are at 5-5, which is not bad. You get a couple more wins in the belly, you can actually possibly start looking at words that begin with P and end in off. Okay, but until then, you need to play the game. Well, you can be pissed off as well, but you know, a good one there, Coach. Yeah, not bad. You're paying attention. I'm glad because normally when I'm talking, you're like, oh, Jack's talking. But there you go. But again, one game at a time. Wake up, Richi. I'm not quite done yet. I'm almost there. Okay.
But it's better than he normally does. He normally gets up and walks off when you're talking, Cap. So that
is true. I've noticed it.
Yeah,
like, I gotta get my drink now. I gotta go whiz and get
beers. Beers.
But
I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out. But there you go. Raiders in Miami, Jerry Lopez and the crew from South Florida Raider Boosters, along with TNBC, along with the Black Hole chapter. We're going to be partying all weekend and hopefully having a good game to watch on Sunday. I'm not saying anything other than that. I want to see a good game. I want to see a Raider team that is competitive with the Miami track team. And as long as I get a good game, I'll call it a win, even if it's moral victory.
I'd still be looking, Cool Cav. Labatt's hasn't been Canadian in I don't know how long.
He's still Canadian.
No, well, yeah, not even in spirit at this point. They're just, yeah. Anyway, so question for you, Captain: how is your run defense?
It's been gashed at times, just like a couple whores in Tijuana, but
no,
drop
down.
There you go. I mean, against the Bears were running on us a lot. The Jets did some running on us as well, and Saquon, although he didn't run effectively, he ran it when he could. So again, the Raiders defense overall is keeping them out. But again, they are getting run on quite a bit. They are getting run on
Brees Hall pretty well.
Because that was
Brees Hall pretty good.
Yeah, because that was really how the Dolphins were able to rack up so many points when they played us, which was they not only did they have the track team, but their running game was
and A-Chain's coming back. I really hope.
A-Chain is one heck of a
selfishly.
We'll talk about that in the Lightning Fast Fantasy podcast.
Yes, a selfish plug for those that play fantasy football. You'll get your best information on the Lightning Fast Fantasy.
Yeah, if you keep doing ads like that, we got to put you on the payroll.
I'm expecting a kickback, mofo. There you go.
Yeah, he's a kickback. We're just working on this Buffalo Wild Wings deal.
So,
and then we'll possibly tease your way. All right.
You're right. Exactly.
So, GA Pedro, I'm gonna cover that off just once we move on to the KC game here, and we touch back with the captain on your Dolphins game. But there's a few things with the Dolphins offense that I think may cause some challenges, not just the track team, but the run game and how you have been susceptible to it.
And Mike Gesicki is not somebody to sleep on either.
No, he's not. They have like 3 dudes that are all complementary in terms of running backs there.
Mike Gesicki's not in Miami anymore.
Okay. See, if you would watch the fantasy broadcast, the Lightning Fast fantasy broadcast, you would know that.
That being said, their tight end is still like a large white dude. I mean, it's pretty much the same.
Smythe.
Mike Gesicki.
Okay, yeah. See, Jerry Lopez knows that because he's in Miami. I apologize. I did see him the last year when the Raiders played the Dolphins in the preseason. And even though the Dolphins are in my state, I don't really give a flying foxtrot about them, other than the fact that they're winners. So again, but yeah, you still got to cover the tight end, which is something the Raiders have a problem with. I don't know, when some tight end can get 20 yards of total offense with 4 touchdowns. I'm just saying it's happened in the past. I can't remember who that guy was. He goes out with some chick that's pretty well famous. I don't know.
Yeah.
20 yards total offense, 4 fucking touchdowns. Ooh.
Well,
I really feel
that's just one game. I'm sure there's others where
I'm really sorry. That was a slip. I mean, seriously. Yeah.
I called it a Floridian slip.
We're good on Twitch now. Twitch is good.
So, Alex, we've covered all our previous games. We've hinted actually little dustings in of the games that we're going to cover in just a moment. We're going to start with the game with the Chiefs. Let's hear your take on the upcoming Chiefs game. Concerns and also the things that you think are going to be strengths.
Get it right though. It's the Eagles. The Eagles are coming to town. You got to say it correctly. No. The Eagles. Kind of like on my ego. The Eagles. That's the way it is.
Where do you get all these?
That's how they pronounce it in Philly, man. Dude.
One day you just kept saying Stillers.
It's the Stillers. Yeah, it's the Stillers from Western Pennsylvania and the Eagles in Philly. I know these things because I lived in Philly as a kid, brother. I'm telling you.
There it is. Now we know.
Now we know.
I just gotta say that. Just say that. But yeah, I mean, this is probably not even being smug, but probably the game of the week. Being it's the Super Bowl rematch.
Ain't no problem.
No smug there. That's true.
That was for
this Monday night for a reason.
I feel like if I don't preface it might be smug, he's gonna tell me it's smug. So I just want
Mike Sarah, where are you?
But
you don't.
But we got obviously Super Bowl rematch. Eagles are riding pretty high, 8-1. It's the number 1 NFC team versus number 1 AFC team. I would imagine this probably ends up being the highest rated Monday Night Football game of ever, because I feel like every week there's some metric that comes out that game was the most watched ever or something. So I'm sure it's going to be, obviously very hyped in that regard. I think what it really boils down to, though, is, you have obviously the Eagles offense. There we go, baby. Eagles offense is ranked. I don't think they're number 1 in a lot of categories, but they're certainly top 3, and obviously really good at moving the ball, running the ball, or at least pushing someone forward for a yard. They're very productive offense. So you have, that narrative with the Eagles versus Chiefs defense, which has continued to be elite. I mean, they're literally second in the league in points per game, giving up around 15, 13th ranked in, so second in points, second ranked in sacks, basically where those metrics you thought would have been on the Chiefs offense or Chiefs defense. But week in and week out, they've continued to display dominance and shown an ability to take an offense's strength and just totally take it away. So, that's obviously the overarching matchup here is, can this Chiefs defense continue to do what they're doing and take away, how the Eagles have been elite to this point, which has basically been A.J. Brown. Can they take that away and, give the offense enough opportunity here to hopefully coming out of a bye, change some things in terms of the productivity with putting points on the board. I think to me, honestly, this game I think it's going to be a close game regardless, just because of how hyped up it is. And I mean, the way Chiefs defense is playing, and I don't think it's going to be a blowout one way or the other. I think this is kind of the catch-all point or the cannon moment, if you will, for the Chiefs offense. Because if they don't figure anything out in this game, then I mean their identity is what it is at this point, and you're not moving the needle any further after week 11, and it's just going to be ride the defense while it's hot and hope that they can stop you enough, or stop enough to get where they want to be. So I mean, like I said, big game for the offense, because I mean Eagles defense could definitely give up points and yards. That's been very apparent, and especially in their last few games going in shootouts with teams like the Commanders, and I don't know who else they played in between that, but and lost to the Jets, gave up. So I mean there's vulnerabilities on the Eagles offense, but I'd say that's more in the secondary than definitely up front, because their up front is just a bunch of bullies, like all of them I think have like 6+ sacks, and even their rookie Jalen Carter, who hits 4 and is in the backfield damn near every play. So big,
but he's a slouch because he only has 4.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and on top of that, they got his college teammate the year before, Jordan Davis, who's equally a force out there. So I mean, very stacked up front. Huge game. I mean, huge game for the offensive line. But I mean, looking at, I wrote it down somewhere there. Yeah, Eagles are at 30 sacks right now, so they're 4th in the league in sacks, 3rd in QB hits. Chiefs defense is basically they're right there in the same metrics of that. But the caveat is Chiefs offensive lines hasn't given up the least amount of sacks right now, and I don't think anyone's given up more than 2. Pretty good place to be at, switching tackles and all this other stuff. That being said, I don't think they've really played a unit that is basically elite across the board, like Philly is. So, I expect to see a lot of, I think a big key would be to come out strong with Pacheco, just commit to the run, hopefully gash them for some plays, and then that will ease up the pressure. But I imagine what they'll do is probably something similar in the Super Bowl, like a lot of short screens and quick game, just to kind of disrupt the flow or just how they pressure the QB. So, I mean, huge game in terms of the trenches, just on how the teams match up. But really across the board, both these teams are like neck and neck in terms of where they rank. It's for the offensive woes of KC, they're really only bad is they're 13th in points per game with 23.1 and tied for 3rd in turnovers at 17, which is, I mean, we're at an unrealistic or uncharacteristic place at this point of the year of how the offense has protected the ball, and how Mahomes has protected the ball. And I think that ultimately boils down to the lack of trust in receivers. Yes. And there's certainly been points where they've played teams and they've made Kelsey totally irrelevant. And then it's been really hard to find that 1B identity to open Kelsey back up. So I don't know. This is, like I said, is the make or break moment for me if there's going to be any sort of progression in the wide receiver room. I think it's got to come out in some facet in this game. Outside of, like, I think I've said every effing week now, like, Richi Rice is the only dude that's really worth a while, and no one else has really contributed. So, someone has to step up big time in that regard, because, it's going to come down to, final play and who can make the big play at the end, and in the Super Bowl, you saw like unsung heroes like Sky Moore and, Sky Moore and Justin Watson making crucial catches or even catching touchdowns. And I think you're going to need something like that in this game as well, and hopefully kind of build off of that. But all that being said, though, I do think that Kelsey, you see a much better game out of Kelsey this time around, especially just how the Eagles defense, they are giving up 130.5 rating to tight ends and 6 touchdowns on the year. So, based off of how Miami went and coming off a bye, and Kelsey was kind of banged up going into the bye, I do expect a much a much bigger outing from him, and I think that
but remember he got some banging done in the bye week himself. So
oh yeah, that's how you get right though, you know. And
I'm sorry.
Now he's in some songs.
That was the lob. That was the T-ball right there as well. You know, sorry, I got to take it.
Alex, I do have one question for you in this game. Seeing how your team did against the run, which was a bit of a struggle when you played the Broncos last, I think it would be fair, if we're going to be just completely honest, that the Eagles are likely going to be looking at that game film. I mean, they've had a full week to do it and really dig into it, right? An extra week, basically. I think they're going to run a lot on you. So I actually think that what it's going to come down to is can your defense get better against the run against a Philly offensive line that is typically pretty good?
Yeah. No, I mean, the run's definitely going to be a big component of this. But I mean, with that being said, you know, like last week or 2 weeks ago, I guess, against Miami, they gave up 7.1 per carry to Mostert, but still ultimately only gave up really 7 points when you think about it, because Mahomes fumbled the ball in their own damn red zone. So, you know, it's at least in that regard, in terms of the run, it has been, I guess, the crux or the weakness to this, you know, I think this defense being, you know, up in the tier of like how we're talking about the Browns defense right now, versus just being like, damn, Chiefs defense is kind of good. Is the fact that they do get gashed at the run, but I mean, up to this point, it hasn't been, I'd say, like a red herring in that, you know, it's been anything bad. Like they've been able to bend and not break in that regard. Obviously, Eagles. I mean, up there in terms of their rushing prowess. But, I mean, Miami going into that game was the number one rushing attack in the league, and I don't think it was close. And they at least had the game plan to slow that down to some regard. Or you know, like I said, bend, break not with that. But, you know, with that being said, the Eagles' offense or rushing offense this year, in my opinion, is not necessarily as potent as it was last year. So I do expect them to run, but, you know, up to this point, they've been able to at least maintain that enough to obviously be in these games. So, yeah, I know that there'll be at least a few brotherly shoves or whatever the hell we want to call that.
Yeah. Philly tush push, baby.
Outside of that, I think the biggest thing is going to be containing AJ Brown, because I mean, arguably, I think he's at the midpoint of the year, like definitely an MVP caliber type talk with what he's doing. I mean, he's averaging basically 8 receptions a game, 112 yards per game, and has 6 touchdowns, you know, up to this point. So I mean, that being said, I think that is the bigger thing that you need to contain or stop, and make this it has to be a Devontae Smith or someone else, because mind you, Dallas Goedert's also out of this game. So, you know, with how the secondary and L'Jarius Sneed's been playing, especially with how they just played against Tyreek Hill, and I mean, I know I've read Sneed's stats before versus number 1 wide receivers, and he's essentially, you know, made it their worst fantasy performance of that season, you know, whatever week he's playing them. So you can hope that he kind of continues the hot streak that he's been on, shadowing these number 1 guys, coupled with the way Spags has game plan the pressure with, I mean, I'm sure giving them coverage help in these areas to negate their, you know, highlight of their passing attack is, to me, the biggest winning factor for KC in this game. I think that will just make everything a million times easier. Like, because you're forcing Philly to find a different option when they're limited in some regard. While also, you know, having to rely on Swift, who outside of a couple weeks hasn't been, you know, the week in, week out RB that they hoped they were getting. So you know, that's the way you beat really good teams, is you force their usually good players to be non-factors, and, you know, test how good are you, like how deep are you, is can this other person be the guy to get you over the hump. So,
right.
I mean, that to me is the biggest factor in this. Do understand that, yeah, Philly's going to be running the ball and probably be successful at it at times. But so far this year, the defense has been playing well enough that it hasn't been a huge factor outside of that Broncos game. But as you so eloquently pointed out earlier, it doesn't help when you have 4 turnovers as well. So
no.
like
no, not at all. Not at all. I also think that you're going to have to factor in for Hurts running. He's quite.
He is banged up right now. He's questionable with the knee, and I know he got, but there's no way he's not playing.
No. And so that's certainly an element there, and as coach can attribute and certainly agree with, when you have a quarterback that has the ability to kind of make you pay for, maybe going back into coverage and leaving those first 4 yards open, that kind of stuff, that can change Spags' defensive strategy, which would then in turn open up run lanes or allow that, Brown, for example, to then have a one-on-one matchup and kind of burn a dude. Like that's exactly the type of offensive strategy that can force a defense to change, and then, like that, the game changes.
Listen,
well, especially too,
lose hair follicles. Trust me.
Yeah.
and the Chiefs are like the most blitz heavy defense out there. That's how you negate a team that is just going to blitz. Is it's hard to blitz when you really should be having someone spy the QB or don't know when he's just ever going to take it off. So I think that's definitely a component to this game, and that's why I probably would imagine, or at least hope, you see KC kind of base up at least to start things off and see how much pressure they can get with their front 4. Because right now they've got 3 guys with 5+ sacks. Karlaftis, the sophomore, is leading things with 6.5. And you got a Mini Hugh just still kind of getting into the fold. So, ideally, with how that signing went, at some point they'll get to a point where they don't need to rely on blitzing as much as they have been, because all these guys are going. But that being said, Eagles' offensive line is equally as elite as the Chiefs is. I don't know how many sacks they've given up, but I know Malata, the left tackle, has given up 6. I don't think anyone else has given up more than 2 or 3. So that's your weak point right there, and that's where you need to be doing rotations and applying the pressure. But yeah, ideally they would be able to create a little bit better pressure than not having to blitz and help take the Hurts component out of this game. But I imagine they'll probably get to a point where they got to blitz. Plus, I feel like Spags just wants to do it. It's just like Andy Reid wanting to call a tight end sneak on 4th and 1. Spags is gonna, like a tight end sneak or a jet sweep. Spags is gonna want to blitz everyone. But it's gonna be a good game either way. I didn't know that this is the first time we've had I thought they did this every year, like the Super Bowl rematch, but I guess this hasn't happened since like 2017.
Well, it used to be
the first game.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I guess they're like, nah, never mind. Yeah, we're good.
They used to do it at a high clip, but they stopped doing it for some reason.
People probably got tired of the Patriots playing opening night every week.
That could be
that's not going to happen for a while.
No, not anymore.
You don't have to worry about that for a little bit.
Yeah.
Final prediction, though, I guess, I predict Chiefs 24, Eagles 21. I think it's going to be close. Chiefs defense has not given up more than 21 points all but one time this year. So I'm just going to keep saying around 21 until they prove me wrong. So knock on wood with that one.
There you go.
Of course, we'll
go around. We'll go around for all of us in our predictions for the Chiefs game, and then once we've done that, Captain, we'll throw over to you to go into the Dolphins.
The Gabagool.
So, Coach, what do you think in the Chiefs game there? What's your score prediction?
I think it's going to be a 3-point game. I think it'll be pretty close. I think they had the added advantage of being in KC, so there's that component. But yeah,
and Swift will be there.
But she will. Is it a guarantee?
She's got to be, dude. There's no way.
There's
no way she's not.
With both Kelseys there and Mom.
Yeah, the families are meeting. This is like probably the first family meeting, dude.
It's a family meeting, so
Kelsey's going off. He's gonna have 400 yards.
Well, Kelsey might be going off, but we're talking about on the game, dude.
Oh Lord. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll say 27-24 Eagles.
Dang.
I'll go last, Cat. What do you think?
I think it's going to, just like Coach said, it's going to be a tight game. Remember, we were talking about toy. It's going to be tight. And again, I and this is no hate, with all due respect. Okay.
I would not anticipate any of you to ever say
no. I just think that because the Eagles, again, spoken correctly, that they've had some tight games this year, but they've always played up to the games that they needed to play up with. I really think that FU factor of playing in Kansas City when they were so close last year, it would be the best way to say to like basically whip it out at the 50-yard line and piss on the Arrowhead. Okay. And I'm just saying, I think Eagles win close 2 or 3 point game.
So my prediction is actually premised a little bit on how Mahomes has played the last 2 weeks, obviously excluding the bye. He's actually had a fair number of struggles, if you're going to be perfectly honest, in terms of some things, as to your point, Alex, likely as a result of not liking and or not having that trust factor with many receivers. And he's made some really really bad decisions, uncharacteristic poor decisions, if we're going to be perfectly honest, with Mahomes. With that in mind, I think you're going up against a defensive line that I believe is going to be the toughest task that you've had this season. Mahomes, so far in the back part, the last 2 games, has when rushed, as in like when he's been rushed to make decisions, has not made good ones. So I'm kind of premising my comments on that, and unless I'm proven wrong, I'm expecting to see more of the same, as I've already seen the past 2 games. My prediction is 31 points for the Eagles, and I have the Chiefs sitting at around 21. And I think that's as a result of an interception and, whether it be a forced fumble, interception, or a combination of those things. I just think that eventually a couple mistakes are made as a result of Mahomes' play. And I hope just for the sake of a more competitive league that he, does better, because it just makes for better football than to watch what we saw with Josh Allen and Mahomes fumbling and bumbling balls all over the place. I just think it makes just for a better game to have more.
I didn't take it. I didn't say anything.
Oh, I was waiting. That was a T-ball right there.
Yeah, no. See, I saw the smiles and said, "Nope, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it." I saw the smirks and said, "The smirks and the smug." I'm like, "No, it's again too easy, too easy." I like to try to work. I try to do a little bit of work on those double entendres, man.
So speaking of passing balls, this case here, we're going to go ahead and throw on over to Captain.
It's just another day.
Yeah. I actually, this game down in Miami, I like the fact that it is in November. Yeah. Because I've done Miami games in September and October, and they're brutal. They're brutal. Oh my God! Even the game that was at night when Marshawn was on the team, and that was, I think, was an October game, was still brutal with the humidity. Okay, this is at 1:00 in the afternoon when the sun is just going to be beating down on the Raiders sideline, and of course the Raiders will be in black, as they shall be there. And which reminds me, I need to make sure I'm wearing my black top for the game, because they will be in black. Because I try to pair my my pirate top to what the jersey is. But Having said that, if the Raiders can do some sort of keeping the track team off of the medal stand, okay? Because like I said, you got the gold, the silver, and the bronze medalists right there. If you keep them off the stands and you keep it close, as they have been, this is a game that the Raiders could win based upon their defense coming up. The problem will be the Raiders offense needs to do something that they haven't done this year other than the Giants game, okay? So I am not predicting a victory. In fact, I'm predicting probably a Raiders loss, but I want to go and see a good game. And if they can continue to build upon what they've done the last 2 weeks and keep it competitive, if not win, then this team has a lot of good things going for it. But I think this one is probably going to be an L for the Raiders, but they're waiting for the following week. They're waiting for the following week. So where me and Mr. Smug will have our little tete-a-tete on the Sunday afterward, which will be fun. But no, I don't see the Raiders winning this game. Also, throw in the fact that Bill Vinovich is the friggin' ref. Spells bad news. Bad news. Look it up, folks. We won with Vinovich in the first game, but it was by this much. And I don't expect any favors from Vinovich and his crew. So I expect the Raiders to hopefully not get blown. I will say that I fully anticipate them not being dropped the 70 burger on.
Yes.
Then there's that.
And then there's that. But I think it's going to be a very entertaining game, just like the last game with the Jets was. I expect to at least get that enjoyment out of it. But I want to see something competitive, and as long as I see that, I'll actually leave pretty happy.
So if any of you have any comments on the Raiders game, please leave them in the chat. We want to pull them up and answer them as best we can. Also, just a bit of housekeeping news. Speaking of the algorithm, as you mentioned earlier, Captain, click the like button on each of our videos if you guys would not mind. That really does help our videos reach more fans just like you, get more into the show, and allow the chat and all the other various things to kind of keep on hopping here on the Wild West podcast. And another piece is, sadly, for those of you who are watching us on Twitter, and if you're typing away comments and such we can't see them. So if you are over there on Twitter, thank you. Well, we appreciate you watching the show, and it is wonderful that you are catching us live. But if you would like to leave your comment and have us see it, maybe even respond back to some of them, come on over to the YouTube or Facebook and go ahead and leave those comments, and we can actually read them live on air and answer your questions. With that all being said, guys, Alex, I'm going to throw over to you until we get more feedback here from the audience on the Raiders game. What are your score predictions?
For me?
Yeah.
Sorry, me?
You are
I think
the Alex on the show, so yes.
Yeah, that's correct. That's accurate. Sure. I do think that the Dolphins win this game, but I don't know what are they favored by?
I haven't even looked. I never look.
It was
They're 13.5.
Yeah, it was
13.5. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be like a blowout. I think the Raiders are definitely on the uptick, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and definitely trending in the right direction and relying on the people they need to on offense. So I think I mean, for Cavs purposes, I think you see them build off of that. But I think Miami is just too good of a team right now to not win this one, especially coming off of a loss and trying to get back into their playoff fold. But I think it'll be a closer, like a 31-28 or 28-24, something like that. But I think
I'd love 28 or 24 points.
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah,
but at the same time, Miami's defense is not like, I mean, they have Jalen Ramsey and expensive pieces, but they're not like overly that good. So I think that, the ball can be moved on them and points can be had. And, at some point, if AOC is the guy for you guys, he's going to have a coming out game to some degree, like he's going to have more than 250 passing yards and a few touchdowns and just look crisp. If he's going to be any part of the future plan, I mean, that game's got to happen at some point this year. So, that Miami's defense, I don't know, is the one for that to happen, but I think you do see more progression with using Jacobs and setting up plays, through that. But yeah, I think the Dolphins ultimately win. And I did want to say the Raiders social media team is absolutely savage on when they release stuff. Like the bet, like they wish Jimmy G a happy birthday.
Yeah,
and then they had that one with Rochelle where they're like, Isaiah Rochelle loves giving back to his community, and that was the day they posted it after they released him.
It was his brother, and it was salute to service, and it was fantastic.
Funny.
Yeah, it just so happened.
He said, probably not the best time to be posting this. And then you look at his Twitter, and it was like, I was released by the Raiders. And then they're like, before he's totally off our books, we got to use this.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? They gave him props, and actually Rochelle was a dynamic piece of the rotation on the defensive line, and they did him a favor. If there were other, because he's got good film. He's got good film on him, and he's going to latch on with somebody. So they actually did the guy a favor, and we appreciate. I know I appreciated everything I saw at him because the kid has a high motor and was a wonderful player for us. I wish him nothing but the best, unless he goes to you guys and hope he sucks. But that's just the way it is.
Unless it goes anywhere in the West.
Right.
I hope he dies.
As long as it goes to any other team other than the AFC
Parkman
West.
Doing a shimmy.
Yeah, that's it.
The women in Cleveland puke.
Yeah, exactly. Makes all the women in Las Vegas puke. There you go.
It's wonders about how new uniform does for a guy. He's still a dick.
There's that damn Rochelle saluting service.
Yeah, so I have a bit of I think there's two keys actually for the Raiders in this game, which could actually yield them a win if both work out, and actually three of them. Sorry, one is you need to get Adams back worked in to being
please
that banner player that we know he can be, and so if your coaching staff is able to, after now having the time, they've now got, this is their third week kind of within kind of them being able to control things. Can you start doing that? So this would be a great game if they could, because you're going to need that additional offensive firepower to get those types of catches made in this game to really elevate. So that's
you need to talk to number 66, 68, and 70. If they do their job,
right,
and folks that don't know, that's left guard, center, and right guard. If those guys do their job, yes, that can happen. And if they don't, it's like you're
going to have a bad time.
Yeah. 100%. So
that before your French fry.
Right. So that would be one. The second one is, I know you hate always having to rely on the one dude, but you really need Max Crosby to kind of throw your team on his back and kind of start taking things over like he has done in the past, because that would certainly be a huge game changer and would be really motivational for the rest of the team to elevate their play as well. But and that's the time where the stars on a team are really looked towards to do the thing. I think back to Von Miller with the Denver Broncos, where he took over Super Bowl 50, and then everyone else on that team and that roster continued to also elevate their play. You're looking for guys like that. Captain, you mentioned the LT from the past with the Giants. He's another guy that has done similar things with his team when he was there, and the rest of the team kind of responded in kind to that type of play. So
I like that comment. I was about to thank God that somebody grabbed it.
Well, that was kind of.
We're wishing concussions on people. Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Never.
I'm kidding.
Never.
Well, I mean, if it happens, but
someone who's had a few undocumented ones, they're not fun.
One, Alex. Absolutely.
So you mean the black?
I've only had one documented. All right.
So you mean the black and silver spots aren't normal?
No.
Oh, okay. No. Weird. No. Okay, that's strange because I was just told to go back and play. But,
that's it.
Yeah.
Rub some dirt on it. That's it. Rub some dirt on it, man. Just go back in there. That's right.
I mean, that's what happened with me. You got a foot in the head, and it was just like a way to build character. And so, anyways, with regards to the last one, and that's Josh Jacobs. You saw him really have a bit of a resurgence in that last game. And really, if you have any hope at even coming close to winning this game, you need Josh Jacobs to really start doing his thing again. And that's in large part because you want the track team to stay on the bench and not on the field.
Yeah.
Right. And so you want to chew the clock, extend those drives, and really kind of methodically start going down the field. And you do that with a really solid running game. Not to mention, by doing that, you also wear out the opposing team's defensive line, because there is nothing more demoralizing than having a guy run down your throat. And that's a big deal. Come on.
Like, what?
The smile says it all, man. The smile says it all. I don't even need to say a word. The smile is there. It's implied. It's like the when they do the cut-ups of the guys that are this guy's been coming at him all night. It's like with the cut-ups from the TV guys. They're coming at him strong all night. It's easy. It's too easy. I'm like, come on, man. Make me work for it. Literally.
But anyways, those are my three. I think that you're probably going to end up with two of those three things likely coming true in the game, just based on the way that your team has played as of late. I think AP, your head coach, really deserves a tremendous amount of credit for turning a team around that was looking to be at the bottom of the league, and now you're in the hunt, which is really something to credit where credit's due. So a fantastic job there. If you can get two of those three done, I think you have a potential of winning. I think it's unlikely though. So I'm kind of putting things in a swing piece here, which is you're either going to be at like a 31-28 Raiders or a 31-21 game for the Dolphins, depending on how your team either hits or doesn't hit on those 3 points. And I think that's kind of where the pendulum kind of swings, if you will, because of those three keys.
And in honor of that orange suit that you have, okay, you guys will know where I'm going with this one. Although he wasn't the guy wearing the orange. No. So you're saying there's a chance.
There we go.
Well, I 1 in a million talk.
I am actually, yeah. I do. I think there's
an IOU.
Right.
It's better than money.
And it sounds like we're pretty much all in agreement that the Raiders are playing some pretty darn good football as of late, and there is a chance that they could be beating the Dolphins given circumstances. But
they're going to be a tough one for everybody at this point.
Yeah,
there's always money in the banana stand, all right?
So we've covered the Raiders. We've covered the Chiefs.
Yeah, you're working with the tailpipe in the banana in the tailpipe. That's it.
Yeah. So we started the show off with your Chargers coach. We'll finish it off with the Chargers. I'm going to quickly delve into the Vikings. Very interested to hear all of your takes, as well as those of us that are in the chat about the Vikings game. I do just think this is going to be an incredibly difficult out for the Broncos. I think that we are on a 3-game win streak, and I don't think that we can belittle that. I think that the credit to the Broncos team and the coaching staff for the changes they've made, they need the credit, that they are well deserving of that credit. But we've been very, very fortunate in the last 2 games in particular, where we have had a very high turnover ratio in the Broncos' favor. That is very rare to end up with not just one, but back-to-back games where you have that volume of turnovers by the opposing team. Another thing to keep in mind is you're dealing with the NFC North or that general division. Anyone in that northern portion of the NFL, they're typically big. They are built to run the ball, and they're angry. And so you have like the Steelers, the Ravens, the Vikings. You got
Steelers.
Well,
there you
go. I mean, the Lions, coach, for example, they're typically a team that's built in.
Détroit Lion. Détroit Lion. UEBC. I have to do this on every show. God dang, it's not even my show anymore. I need to find my friggin' beret. I missed it on the last show. I couldn't find it. Never mind. You got it.
So, anywho, now that we've gone through that,
I still don't know where my friggin' beret is. There you
go. Right. So I think at the end of the day, you're dealing with a different style of a team than what the Broncos have also been used to dealing with as well. And Coach, you said about Staley and having the right players to fit the right style of defense, and then that makes a huge difference. Well, something else that I'm sure you'll also agree with as the defensive dude, and Alex similarly as a O lineman and whatnot, the right type of guy on the other side of you can make you look silly simply because they are kind of not what you're built for in terms of stopping. So if you're a team that's built to run like the Dolphins, like a track team, and then you end up dealing with a bunch of really big, strong dudes that throw you backwards, that kind of throws your game off because you're not used to that type of power style, right? And that can really throw teams off. And I think that AFC West, when we play teams like the Ravens and whatnot, they really do challenge our team's makeup because we are typically not built the same way that the NFC North is. We're not. Like, they have to run the ball for 50 to 60% of their season because it's friggin' cold. Yeah. So it's just a fact. And so I think that all comes into play here. If the Broncos win, I think it'll be another kick, like walk-off field goal style thing. But ultimately, I kind of see this being. I actually think that this is likely going to be a Vikings win. However, I do want to go on record and say, if the Broncos win this game, that my prediction is that this is the pivot. This is the changing point in the Broncos season. I said on the last podcast, I needed to see more. I saw more. However, I still saw offensive struggles against the Bills. If the Broncos can beat the Vikings and either A, force a bunch of turnovers, that becomes a trend, not an anomaly. And on top of that, if the Broncos can start putting up points, like actual offensive points on a consistent basis and start to show that they can beat teams in multiple ways, that to me is kind of what I'm looking for. That's what I want to start seeing from the Broncos.
And by the way, I didn't walk out on you like you walked out on me. I was just getting all my hats together, and I still can't find my friggin' beret.
I need to get you one of those like huge ones, those big hats. You know what I'm talking about?
I got one. I got one coming. I actually bought one. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I said it. I got one coming. But yeah, it hasn't been delivered to me yet. Thank you for reminding me. I need to get with Raider Nation for Life because it's the big kind of like Mexican working field hat thing. So I have that as well. So yeah, I got a collection. I just don't know where my friggin' beret is, which sucks because Frenchie without his beret just kind of loses some of the.
He's kind of creepy. He's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to have to go to the Derby. The English Derby. It just doesn't. It's not the same.
Poor boy hat. So real quick, I'm going to throw out a score. I see this game likely landing somewhere in the. We're going to call it 21-10 10 or 21-13 for the Vikings, I think, in this game. I think it'll be a lower scoring game than what we've seen from the Broncos to date. I'm assuming we see offensive challenges again, because I've seen that the last 3 weeks now for the Broncos. And so that's why I kind of have us with a lower scoring game. And I think that the Broncos defense continues to show up, which is why I think the score also gets contained despite the offensive struggles. So I have this kind of in that general range, like a 21-13, 21 to, somewhere in that range. But I do think the Vikings just kind of edge past the Broncos as a result.
All right.
Alex, what are your thoughts on the score?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a game that Denver can win. I mean, they are actually 2.5-point favorites. I think that is the culmination of, Dobbs being Minnesota's QB, Justin Jefferson's not there. Pretty sure Madison's not going to be playing, so it's a banged up squad. That being said, the Vikings defense has been like on an absolute pretty. I mean, Brian Flores has got them playing right now. And so I think this is, like you said, the biggest test for Denver because, this is, I mean, they did it once against KC. I will say is kind of skewed because it was, the second time they played 3 weeks. So just the point in time, and then, play Buffalo, whose defense is not the best.
You realize that you played us twice in 3 weeks too, right? You realize you had the equal opportunity to actually do the same thing?
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
okay. Great. Yeah.
But I mean, I was talking more on the defensive side of the ball, like playing the defense. Sure. I mean, offense turn the ball over 4 times. Like, you're never going to win a football game when you turn the ball over. So,
no.
Yeah, that assessment's out. But back to my point, this is like the other elite type defense they're playing. So if they can pull this out, then I think that the hype with the Broncos ascending up, I think, more coming to fruition than not.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think it's going to be closer than you think it will, because I mean, at this point, I think Minnesota's relying on Josh Dobbs, and it's like at some point, as much as I love a good feel-good story and like dudes who have kind of been journeymen making it to the top, like it's going to come down at some point. And it seems like they've been kind of relying on his legs. And, I just don't know if that is something that they can sustain. So I think it'd be a close game. But I'm going to say the Vikings win just because.
Dobbs magic.
Yeah. What do you see as a score? What do you see as a score?
I think it's going to be like a, let's say 27-24. Like, right. I mean, Denver's always in it, especially lately, because their defenses are playing pretty well too. So, I feel like their last 3-4 games have been down to final possession. So I don't see any reason that that changes. So we'll see.
Yep. So that's interesting. Captain, down to you, and then Coach will go to your score prediction for the Broncos game, and then go right into your game upcoming this week with the Chargers.
I would say I like the Vikings only because I think that they're clicking correctly. I like the fact that they are gelling with Dobbs. I think it's going to be like a 1-score game, like a 6-point game. But it's going to be 1 score. It's going to be not that field goal. So no smugness in this one. And thanks for catching that, Mike, Sarah. Is like you said, like 27-21 or 29-23, something within that 6-point realm.
You just said no smugness and then put out the same exact point ranges that I did.
Again,
there's a little smugness
with all due respect. With all due respect.
I'm just citing the record, dude. I'm just going with what's on the record here.
with all due respect, I'd say a 6-point game. No smugness allowed in anything I say. It's all levity. It's all levity from the captain, baby.
So, Coach, your thoughts on the Bronco-Viking game, and then on to your upcoming game this week.
I actually think that the Broncos have a pretty good shot, especially playing at home. I mean, that Mile High altitude, is not something that Minnesota has to deal with on a regular basis. So that can play a factor in my opinion. I think, of course, what they do with Jefferson, maybe he plays this week, maybe not. They're more leaning towards coming back after their bye. So if he does not play, I think it's even better for the Broncos in the matchup perspective.
I know he saw it. Yeah, I saw the smirk. I said he saw it. He saw it.
Thank you, George. Different attitude.
Yeah,
exactly. And Mike Sears. Yeah, it's all in the presentation.
The worst stuff in the world. With a nice tone, it comes off better, right? Yeah. I would say it's a 24-20 game. Broncos. 24-20 game.
I could, like I said, something like that I could totally see happening.
Mm-hmm.
However, the Broncos would have to show that extra spark on the offensive side of the ball that they've struggled with the last few weeks. It is 100% possible. It's just they haven't done it yet. Like, yes, we've won these last 3 weeks, but it's not been decisive despite having turnovers and all these other things. It's kind of been barely, kinda, and or a squeak field goal type thing.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your thoughts?
I said 24-20.
No, I meant on your game.
Oh, on my game.
The Chargers won?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like we were doing the okay.
We'll do a quicker wrap up on the Chargers. We'll do a quicker wrap up on the Chargers just because I know that the fantasy podcast needs to kick off. So what are your
lightning fast fantasy
podcast? That's right. So yeah, I don't know. I really believe that we're going to probably make the Packers look better than they have in recent weeks, based upon how we performing on defense. I'm just hoping that it doesn't have to be a Herculean effort that Justin Herbert had the weight of the world he had to carry in the previous game. But again, we got to go up to Green Bay. That's a different environment. Kind of curious what the weather's going to be like. This particular point in time, it is November, so so how we play outside in the cold. It's really going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I think it'll be a good game, ironically, for what that's worth. It's a slight chance of rain showers and the 8-mile-an-hour wind, and it's going to be 40 degrees. So, yeah. I don't know when the last time we played in the cold weather, so it's anybody's ball game as far as how we play in the cold. So we've been lucky enough that I had to play in cold weather here recently. So the cold slight rain weather plays into it. But yeah, I think that we can win this game. It's just a matter of what the defense does. I mean, we can look all day about how pedestrian what's the guy's name? Damn it,
Jordan Love.
Jordan Love. How Jordan Love is.
How about my dynasty QB, man? Watch him out.
I'm sorry.
I got the future of my team.
All right. I can't.
No, he's bad.
I am sorry for you.
Yeah,
me too.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think that it'll be an emotional game for Chargers fans, obviously, because again, it should be by normal standards, so it should be a W for the Chargers, but again, we tend to make teams look better than they really are in totality. So it just really matters of how we execute on offense, and can we get a stop or two? We can get a stop or two. I think we're in good shape. But if we just let the floodgates open like we did against the Lions, then it's going to be very interesting in the shootout, and who has the ball last will win the game. That's my prediction.
I'll give my quick score prediction here. I actually think this is a bit of a blowout. I think the Chargers. I think your pass rush between Bosa and Mack get home a few times there, because I think the Packers offensive line has had some challenges. I also think that Herbert has shown enough for me this year where he has elevated himself to that next level that you would want as a Chargers fan with the quarterback like that. And I think that between kind of those factors as well as a few others, I see this being something like a 38-20 game type thing, where your defense has still struggled. So I think you still give up a fair number of points just because you've had those issues. But I just think that your offense is just too darn good to contain for the Packers. And I also think that there's a defensive score or scoop and score or some combination of that in there where you get a Mack or a Bosa kind of strip sack sort of thing on Jordan Love.
I'm all for gimmies.
Well, that's exactly it, right? So that's where I'm at. I think it's like a 38-20 game for the Chargers. I think you're going to be somewhat surprised and pleased with the outcome. But we'll see.
All right. Fair enough.
Captain?
I think Chargers win convincingly and without any problem.
Yeah. I'm on that train too. So yeah. All right, guys. We got to get these two gentlemen off to their podcast now. Right after this show.
The lightning fast fantasy football prediction podcast.
Well, if you don't hurry up, nothing's going to be lightning fast. So we've got to go. Okay, we got to go. So, anyways, guys, I want to thank you very much for joining us on today's Wild West podcast. Next week, we will definitely be recapping Week 11 and a look ahead to Week 12. Go ahead and catch the real Alex Givens and Coach Defense on the
Lightning
Fast Fantasy Podcast directly after this show.
That's when you do it.
There you go.
Thank you very much for joining us, guys. Where the West Side is the best side. Peace.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down.